Would you believe this is my most popular YouTube video on YouTube? It's nearly got 10,000 views. Anyway, I shot this last year with Gregory in a noisy cafe in 360p, so it's not even very good quality, but people persevered with the video that I made last year. Well, this time we met up again and I shot in 1080p, a little bit better, and I hope you enjoy it. We talked about what it's like to be an Australian actor living in Hong Kong and working in Hong Kong as an actor while speaking Cantonese. Gregory Rivers is one of the few natives who's actually on TV that exist here and speaking in fluent Cantonese, and he takes on many parts during his career, well, being the complimentary white guy. If you don't know who he is because you're outside of America, that's fine. Come and get to know him. If you're from Hong Kong, of course you know him. So, thanks for watching, and thanks for watching the last one. This is for those that persevered and probably want more. So here's more. Bowles is back. Do you remember Bowles?
No, it was a long time ago.
Okay, he was the man, and I have to apologise to you now in front of everybody. Because I have to
this is so embarrassing. All right.
Atone for one of my sins, because when you said you were from Gympie, and I just said, "Oh, Bowles will know," and you said, "No, he won't." It was either 50-50.
Yeah.
And we never talked about it, but he could have lied. And when I watched the video of the first version, it's like, it's unnecessary. It was unnecessary for me to say, "Oh, Bowles will know," because I had no basis with which to say that. So, yeah, I apologise.
Gympie is pretty famous though. It's really strange. It's 20,000 people, a really small country town, and a lot of people know about it.
One of your prime ministers comes from Gympie.
Don't think so.
I was doing research on Gympie. I'm atoning for my sins. I wanted to know more about this little place.
You should sin more.
And there is an Australian president at the beginning of the 19th century.
Oh, okay.
And supposedly he hails from there. There's some Paralympics as well from Gympie. There's all sorts. It's like, whoa. And you're on there, obviously, on Wikipedia.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, the Wikipedia listing.
I've never checked. All right. Most of the time I'm an actor. So I've been here for 30 years. Arrived in '87 and came over to be a canto pop singer. And that didn't really happen, but ended up in acting instead. So Hong Kong used to have one major traditional television station, or they still do, called TVB. And they had a TV series back in '88, and they were looking for an extra Caucasian to act in their series because they already had one Caucasian working at TVB and they needed one more. And a friend of mine saw a poster and told me about it, and I was really apprehensive about it because I had no acting experience. But I went and saw them, and after almost losing the role totally because I was too nervous to say anything, eventually got the role, and it just turned into 20 years straight at TVB. And I left TVB about 9 years ago, and that was taking another big chance again, because the thing was at TVB, I knew that if I stayed there, I was going to become the old person, the one who gets really old and is supporting roles and he's stable and steady, but he's never going to go very far.
Okay.
Because they weren't going to put money into promoting a Caucasian actor. And the other choice was to leave and see what happens outside, so I decided to leave. I'm a bit of a gambler, I guess.
You've done some movies.
I've done a few movies, yeah. But in terms of important roles, you're still a Caucasian in a Chinese in a Hong Kong Chinese market, and it's really almost impossible to be getting a major role, unless you're already super famous.
Oh, I was when I thought of movies, I was looking at the animated movies where then your physical identity doesn't matter so much.
I've done one of those.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did one of those last year. It was
it's not on your Wikipedia page. They haven't updated it. Whoever's making the factual errors,
I don't know,
is also not updating your Wikipedia page.
Is there something wrong with a person updating his own Wikipedia page? I mean, you can make corrections if something is really wrong, but to be trying, I don't know, maybe it is. It's like a virtual resume, isn't it?
Yeah.
But they'll never check who's actually doing the updating. They'll assume it's true unless somebody comes back and says, no, it's not true.
On Gregory's Wikipedia page, it says that he discovered America in Hong Kong, and we talked about this last time, and it still says that. They haven't changed it, so clearly...
So clearly the Wikipedia is very accurate.
Yes, and whoever's watched my YouTube video hasn't been one of those viewers who also updates your Wikipedia page.
Right.
So they haven't made the correction.
I was at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, and I was studying medicine. And I discovered Canto Pop, and it was my thing. So I started learning the language from the Canto Pop. One of the things with Chinese albums and records is that they actually come with the lyrics in the packet. And this is, this is even 30 years ago, it was the same. So I would be listening to the songs on loop, cassette tape in those days, so it was pretty bad on the cassettes. Looping continuously and reading the lyrics. And then I bought a course from Linguaphone, and it was really, really bad. And, and I came with a friend to Hong Kong for about 4 or 5 days back in, I guess back in '86. And I discovered another course by I think it was by Lau, it was Basic Cantonese in 100 hours. And that was top notch, that was really good.
So you learned it in 100 hours?
I don't know. I'm still learning. I mean, frankly, it's not an easy language, and I'm still, I mean, it depends on how much, how well you want to speak the language. And if
Do you write it as well?
I type it.
Okay.
Typing is easier than writing because I can type in Mandarin Pinyin, and it's very quick.
Right.
But to actually write it takes a lot more effort. I should practice. I'm a bit lazy.
I have a partner, and she does a weekly Periscope about doing calligraphy and writing because she forgets, because she types in it to her friends all in Chinese, to English.
Yeah.
So she feels she's losing that skill of writing.
A lot of Chinese are forgetting how to write Chinese because they just type it.
The Chinese
or they dictate. Yeah.
Okay.
And so people, I mean, my wife's uncle, he has amazing Chinese, just normal writing, not calligraphy. It's just amazing because he keeps a diary. So every single day he's writing a few pages, in his diary. So his Chinese is amazing. But a lot of young people, it's just typing into a telephone or dictating, and so they're forgetting how. Even if you're actually writing the characters on the phone, it's a little bit messy. You're not really trying to be nice, right? You're trying to be quick. And so a lot of these people now, if they start writing an essay or something, it looks really, really bad. It looks like a primary school student still learning how to write Chinese.
Do you think that's like an unintended consequence of these smartphones?
Yeah, it's going to get worse because everybody's dictating, or they're recording audios in WhatsApp, and people don't need to type anything anymore.
And that's because, so do you think Chinese is going to suffer more so than, say, Romanized languages because of the pictorial element to it?
Over time, traditional Chinese might lose ground to simplified Chinese, not because the Chinese government wants that like that, but maybe because if you forget how to write the character, you're going to go back to the simplified version over time.
For those that don't know, simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese are very different.
Only for the most common characters. So the non-common characters only exist in traditional form. So I think there are about 3,000 simplified characters.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the number, but it's not a lot. And they're the common characters that people use all the time.
Okay.
So we go back to the original question. So I was singing these songs, and then I got the course. And then the next step was when I came to Hong Kong, I started working at TVB. And from day one, my scripts have all been in Chinese with no transliteration, nobody recording the dialogue for me. So
why is that?
Because I didn't want to get lazy.
They didn't want to get lazy.
I didn't want to get lazy.
Okay.
So, if I'm holding a script and there's a character I don't recognize, I'll have a look in the dictionary or ask a friend, but I won't write it down. I'll force myself to remember it. And I was young in those days, so my memory was pretty good.
Okay. More time as well. Would you say you have more time?
Maybe not. Once I got into TVB and they signed me up on a contract, I used to have a tutoring job, tutoring English. And the tutoring center said, nah, we can't work around your random TVB schedule. So yeah, maybe I did have more time. No, there's no regulars.
There's no regulars?
Not for me anyway.
Okay.
I have a couple of friends that, we could say we grew up together at TVB. So there's, what's his name in English? But there's one guy called Lam Ga Dong. He actually...
You know him.
He actually picked up the award last year at the Hong Kong Movie Awards. He was the best supporting actor or the best actor, leading actor. I can't remember which one it was. So it was really cool. But he's been working hard for about 30 years. I mean, this guy really works hard.
Okay.
He never stops. He's one of those people you were talking about before. He writes, produces.
Okay.
He can do the whole production from beginning to end. A movie, not just TV, but a movie. And he's really careful about what he does. If the product's not going to look too amazing, or too good when it's in its final form, he's not going to do it. Recuperating. I was pretty sick last week.
Okay.
Back in September and October, I was just too busy. And I don't know, I have a reaction to pressure where I should sleep, but the reaction to pressure is to not sleep.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
You can relate to, it's a really bad reaction. So I was averaging 3 to 4 hours sleep a night for about a month, and then got really sick last week, and now I've got to reset my body and get back to a better form. So at the moment it's just the occasional singing gig.
Because you're also a singer.
Because I guess I could call myself a singer. I'm not a pop star. I'm just the occasional singer.
Okay.
I actually performed last night. So we did 3 songs. No, I did 3 songs last night. And
in Cantonese or in English?
No, in Cantonese. Well, 2 of them are in Cantonese. One of them is in Mandarin. And I was really happy because last week I had no voice at all. And then last night it was okay. It was pretty good.
Okay.
So the occasional... There is a project we're talking about coming up, a stage play in Cantonese, leading role. We haven't confirmed it yet.
Do you have to fight hard for roles? If you go to a new job, a new role, and you apply for it, do you have to fight hard for it, or is there still not many English-speaking Canto speakers?
So there are maybe 4, 5, or 6 Caucasian Cantonese-speaking actors in Hong Kong, and we're all friends. And
we're friends.
We still are. The thing is that we're all different.
Okay.
And so if 2 of us went for the same role, and in Hong Kong this is not Hollywood, so people don't actually go for roles most of the time. It's the producer and the director who just think about who are they going to choose, and then they go out and find you. So we don't actually have to go in for casting most of the time. It just doesn't really happen. But 5 or 6 of us, and we're all different, so there's never really any conflict. So we're pretty good friends.
There's only a number of Periscopers, only a few live streamers still in Hong Kong, and Periscope has been here for nearly 3 years, April next year, and there's still only 7, 8 of us who really Periscope almost daily.
I think Periscope is probably the non-Asia market. Because now in Hong Kong people are going to Weibo with instant broadcasting, and then there's another app that does Yatikbo, and they have these instant broadcastings. And in China, because the market's huge, and so if you know how to talk and you work on one of these once a week or twice a week, they make a really nice living. So they're not going to be using Periscope if they have access to the Chinese market.
Good point. We were talking before about Twitter accounts, and Gregory has a Twitter account, but he doesn't.
But you wouldn't know it. I haven't used it for ages
because it's so American focused.
It's American, yeah.
Twitter pulled out of Hong Kong last year. Not that anyone knew they were here.
I didn't know they were here.
You did?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. They moved to Singapore.
Oh,
even though we were
Singapore makes sense.
Even though at the time we were trying to push and say, listen, there's an Asian interest in Periscope and Twitter. When they had to cut their budget, they just closed the offices and shut everything down.
Yeah, real estate here. We talked about this last time, but it's worse than it was last time. And we're the most expensive city in the world. And the tourists come to Hong Kong. They see all these amazing buildings and office buildings, and they go, "Oh, it's such a really rich, prosperous city." But more than half the residents here are really poor and hidden somewhere else in the government housing.
Well, it was only last week the government, there was a Hong Kong Free Press article, 1 in 5 people are poor.
We're really poor. Yeah. I'm serious, we're not joking. But you got to imagine, if you've got a couple of really expensive Thai buildings, that's concentration of wealth, and if it's coming from somewhere, it's coming from the other people.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the main restaurant companies in Hong Kong, Maxim, I mean, they were able to build their own office building from the profits they were making, and they now own between 7 and 15 different brands of restaurants and cake shops and bakeries, and that wasn't them. And so, you know, if you can create your own brands and make it feel like there's competition when there actually isn't, and then you become friends. The shopping malls in Hong Kong now are managed. Many of them are managed by the same one company.
Yes.
Competition's not real here anymore, and
Because you think there is, like you think, oh, there's a Park and Shop and a Welcome and a 360, but they're owned by the same company. No, I know Welcome.
No,
Park and Shop
Welcome
isn't,
Singapore.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you see the different shops and businesses, and you think, oh, there's lots of competition, but they're not. You look closely, and they've got a plaque, and it says part of da Holdings, or it's a Li Ka-shing.
With Park and Shop, what you got to do is just buy the same thing every time, and then you know what the price should be, and you go in and you see this red label that says on special, and you look at, wait a minute, that special price is more expensive than the regular one. But you have to know what the prices were traditionally to know what the games they're playing.
There was also an article I read where it was like how to avoid giving money to Li Ka-shing.
Oh,
It's
really?
next to impossible because he owns a bit of this, a bit of that, a restaurant here, a restaurant chain there.
He
You know?
is slowly leaving Hong Kong. So
You mean because he's so old, he's going to die?
no.
Oh, you mean it's financially?
He's selling his businesses and slowly moving away, but because the Chinese tycoons have so much money, then they really want to come in and buy up things, and they have the money to buy up things. But supermarkets are a pretty tough proposition. They don't make much money. The rents are high, and the profit margins are relatively low. It's a really hard business. The logistics are really difficult. It's not a great. So you've now got the online Hong Kong TV supermarket mall. So they're starting to make inroads into the supermarket market. You didn't know about them?
No?
Probably because the name says Hong Kong TV.
And I don't
because
watch TV, yeah.
well, they're not TV.
Oh, well,
But they used to be. So they started out as Hong Kong TV. They were making soap operas, and then the government refused to give them a TV license. So after spending all this money on these TV soap operas, high quality TV, so not so episodics, then they had to give it up. And they used their expertise and their money and opened an online supermarket with home delivery. So because the way they're set up is that they don't have to keep stock. And so anybody who's a supplier can sign a contract with them, and then they just redirect the orders to the suppliers, and the suppliers send the product to the online supermarket when they get the orders. And so nobody's holding stock.
oh, okay.
And they're slowly making it, but the name is Hong Kong TV because they started out as TV.
This is just my idea, this is just my theory, but online businesses aren't big here because they don't need to, because they have a physical helper, someone who can help them do the shopping for them. So why would they need to spend online and just tap on the computer screen for their goods? When they've
I don't
already
know.
spending
One of the
4,000
problems I have
people.
with Park and Shop is if you want to go in and get some junk food, the range of junk food, the selection that they have is really limited, and a lot of it is produced by companies in America blessed by the USDA, and I don't like them. Because even these so-called health bars, if you look at the ingredients, it's 35% sugar. How can a health bar be 35% sugar? But it's USDA blessed. I only trust the American companies to make as much money as they can while not helping the consumer. So I'd really like to see more selection that wasn't USDA blessed in these supermarkets, but it's pretty hard to come across. I mean, they have a lot of really great food in Australia and Europe, so why do you have to buy everything from America? The only reason they buy stuff from America is because it's cheaper. It's cheaper because the quality's not there.
Yeah.
They use food science to trick you into thinking that it's delicious or I lose my English sometimes, or addictive.
Have you been to 360?
It's a slightly higher class
Yeah.
supermarket, yeah.
But when you go there and buy junk food, the claims that they make on these products that you've just mentioned are actually stick it over with American flags because they don't pass the Hong Kong food
Standards?
Standards, yeah. So they have to get rid of them, black them out with marker or something. So I have to sit there and do that.
The sugar problem is a really big problem in developing countries, especially. The kids are growing up drinking soft drink, and it's full of sugar, and sugar is, I might be wrong, but I heard somebody tell me that sugar is actually 9 times as addictive as opium.
I heard something about that. Or it's just as addictive.
But it's just a legal addictive drug. And you got kids who are growing up on soft drinks, and even the breads in Hong Kong now, a lot of the breads here at the bakeries have sugar in them.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, the only sugar in the bread was put in there for the yeast to feed on so it could make the bread expand while it was being cooked. So that's maybe 1, maximum 2 teaspoons of sugar in a loaf of bread. It never tasted sweet because the yeast absorbed it all before you actually baked it. But now in Hong Kong, a lot of the bread is sweet. It's an addiction trend. And if you have 2 bakeries and one's making addictive bread and the other one's not, then it's very, very possible that the addictive bread bakery is going to make more money than the non-addictive one. And if they put sugar into their breads, it's cheaper to make.
I want to pick up on what Frank was saying. Frank was saying that going online takes time. I think he was referring to the industry. But here, why is online services not as successful? Because if I go to Fortress online, they'll show you the product, but you can't order it and they don't give you a price. The last time I checked.
But we don't need Fortress online. See, Fortress is Li-Ka-shing, but that's not the reason.
Right.
I don't know how these electrical appliance companies make a living, especially the retail spaces in Hong Kong are super, super, super expensive, the rents. And a lot of the contracts actually require that your profits are monitored by the landlord, and they get a cut of your gross income, not your net profit.
Okay.
So it's really, really expensive. But in Hong Kong we have price.com, and we have a price.com app. So the last time I bought camera lenses, and the last time I bought, I know it was a toaster oven or something else, I just went to price.com, put in the model I was looking for, and found a vacuum cleaner, and found the cheapest place. And there's a lot of retail stores working out of office buildings, and they don't have to open the door in a shopping mall to let passers-by come in. And people just search them out on price.com, and they find the cheapest prices and go there. So Fortress, how's it going to make? Fortress and these other companies, I mean, the old generation might go there because they don't know what apps are and they don't know what price.com is, but the younger generation's not going to go there. It's a big difference in price.
And Taobao?
Yeah, I went shopping. I've been shopping at Taobao recently. In the last 4 months, I've been there 5 times. You know, the computer hard drives, and you got I don't buy the hard drives from Taobao, but the enclosures, the cables. Okay. I got a new iMac, but I have 2 eSATA drives, and the iMac doesn't have an eSATA connector.
Okay.
And so I was able to find the small converter on Taobao, and then so Taobao is really, not good for the retail industry.
But you can find almost anything on Taobao as long as you speak and read Chinese. I find it's impenetrable to me, so I need Raya.
See, one of the things with the Macintosh is that the earphone jack on the back of the iPhone is actually hardware engineered that when you put a headphone jack in, the speakers turn off.
Yeah.
And there's no way around it, except there is. So you don't plug into that adapter, you get a USB 3.5mm adapter, and so you use the USB ports instead of using the hardware, and then you can just use the internal speakers or the external speakers or the headphones, and you don't have to be messing around with cables.
There you go.
There you go. And then my internet, I have cameras at home, but I'm very paranoid about bringing cameras without, just trusting them outright. So my cameras at home are on a separate LAN, and they're connected to the iMac by a separate USB Ethernet adapter, and they have no access to the internet. It's funny because you can actually see my activity log actually shows these cameras pinging my computer trying to get access to the internet.
Okay.
So I'm a bit of a geek. All right.
Like, how well known are you in mainland China? Does any of that, like I say, the Hong Kong...
A lot of them recognize me. They might not know my name, but they will recognize me. So I said I was really, really busy in September and October.
Sure.
In September, I had to go up to Shanghai, and one of the satellite TV stations for the first time made a National Day celebration program, and the whole program, 3 episodes, consisted of Caucasians singing Mandarin and Cantonese songs. And so there were about 60 of us, and a lot of them are very impressive. Their Mandarin and their singing, it was just incredible. And it was just really great to be in the, at rehearsals and listening to all these Caucasians sing amazing songs with amazing voice. I love it when I'm with other people who really know what they're doing. It's just so incredible. I had goosebumps listening to these people sing. And so my song was in Cantonese, and there was one other singer, he was in Cantonese too. And when I got on stage, the 4 guests who were talking to us and introducing us and whatever, and they go, "Yeah, I think I've seen you before somewhere." Yep, TVB. Oh yeah. So I was there, and I sang my song, and back here in Hong Kong on Facebook, just one of the pages that posted my song got 2.1 million hits. It was, it was a big surprise, a bit of a shock. But even in China, a lot of people saw the show. And they go, "Oh, I remember this guy. I grew up watching him on TV."
Okay.
Because TVB used to be popular in America, in China, before China had quality television programming, say 10 years ago. Before that, most of them were watching TVB.
How far did TVB span across China?
You remember the big earthquake in Sichuan?
I'll ask. No.
Oh wow, okay. So they had this massive earthquake up in Sichuan, and this town is between these mountains, and so when the earthquake hit, the mountains collapsed down on the town, because you had torrential rain as well as the earthquake, and it literally buried the whole town. A lot of people died, and then there were the schools that were falling down with the earthquake because they weren't quality concrete, they were concrete mixed up with styrofoam. I went up there with a charity group. They were looking after kids who had been harmed by the earthquake, so they lost legs, they lost arms, things like that. And we were on a bus going from one town to another town in Sichuan, and these people recognized me. So, Sichuan is, it's pretty inside China. So it's Lamjing, they know who I am. Beijing, some of them know who I am. It's pretty cool. I think TVB's treated me pretty well.
Yeah.
Within their business plan. The last 5 years I had good roles. They weren't leading roles, but the roles were pretty good anyway. And the thing that, like my friend Lam Gadong and a couple of us, the thing that we always remember is that TVB was our training ground. So 20 years at TVB, you learnt massive amounts of things about acting, about how the whole set works and how everybody works with each other, and where the cameras are, and how to work for 14 hours in a day without complaining. TVB is really, really important. And then on top of that, we come out of TVB with all this knowledge and experience, but then there's already a market out there who knows who we are. So TVB is really important.
Okay. John is asking, he said, "Why aren't you as rich as you should be?"
Because this is Asia, and we don't have residuals.
Oh, okay.
So in America, you make any movie or television series and you get residuals from the replays, from the DVDs. In Asia, we get nothing. Zero. So if TVB, they do a series and it gets rebroadcast,
they keep all the money.
They keep all the money.
Oh.
We get nothing. We get zero.
Is that ever going to change?
Probably not. There was, over 10 years ago, there was a group of actors here, the tier 1 actors, and they got together and they were talking with Japan and a couple other Asian countries, and they were talking about what it would take to actually set up residuals for people in Hong Kong and Asia, and it would require a major rewrite of the laws. But the rich people control the laws, so yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
Have you ever done Japanese adverts?
No.
Oh, okay. Would you like to? Like a weird Japanese advert, just back home to Hong Kong or Australia, and someone's going to go, Greggy, what was that advert about? And then you could explain like, well, it's just something for the Japanese market. It's normal over there. And you can just shrug it off.
I do strange, unusual things all the time, so yeah, that'll be okay.
And in front of
It's
a TV
part
camera.
of the experience, you know.
Is this in front of a TV camera? Or are we talking something more personal?
No, in front of a TV camera.
Okay.
Yeah, work-wise. I mean, so you were talking about the animated movie. I had a major character. That actually happened last year. That's why I got off topic and went to the award. Because after they gave me the award last year, I became very popular. And I was offered all this work that I hadn't been offered before that.
Right.
And one of them was an animated movie. What's the name of it?
I saw it after our previous scope chat, but I don't remember it. Was it a Disney movie?
No, it wasn't Disney. So it was. It wasn't. It was. You know the guy who got stranded on the island, and he was there for a long time. Not Gilligan, the other one.
Gulliver?
No.
Gulliver Travels, no?
No.
I don't know then.
Yeah, you do, but I'm not describing it very well.
Okay.
Friday. He has a helper named Friday.
Maid or helper?
Well, he's on an island, so
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I did this. I was actually one of the lead roles in the animated movie, and the whole movie is from the viewpoint of the animals. So they turn the story around. Instead of talking about this guy surviving on the island for how many years with his family, Family Robinson.
Okay, he's guessed it before the chat on Periscope helped. Okay.
Yeah, but there's a different name. So I was the human guy on this island amidst all these animals, and then all the animals had their own voices.
Right. Okay.
But that was really cool. You know, it actually worked out really, really well. Yeah, it was great. New project.
That was a children's movie.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely a children's movie. Yeah, adults watching it would feel a little bit bored.
Okay, yeah, but they do that now, don't they? They have like a children's movie, and then they put adult jokes in there to keep the adults pacified.
Yeah, this one didn't.
The children.
Yeah, this one didn't do that.
No,
I don't know much about Australia anymore.
But even when I was writing the title of this Periscope, I was just confirming, is this the Australian flag? And you were saying, oh, I don't really recognise it. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's a New Zealand problem. New
that's
Zealand's very close to the Australian flag. Yeah.
And then, but then that neatly just dives into my next topic, and it's like, how often do you go back to Australia? Where do you go in Australia?
Once or twice a year.
Okay.
My father has Parkinson's now. Well,
Okay,
I wouldn't use the word now, but it's getting worse. So we've got to try and get back a little bit more often. The last couple of years have been really nice because the Queensland Tourism Department flew me back to film a couple of commercials for them. So we were able to get free tickets back to Australia and go back and see my family.
So do you have a presence in Australia as well? Like some of whatever you've earned
the beginning of last year, there was a media group in Hong Kong, and the target audience is the young people of Hong Kong. And they gave me this big singing award, the most popular male vocalist in Hong Kong.
Okay.
I'm the first guy in history to get these awards without having ever produced an album. Anyways, they gave me this award, and the South China Morning Post in Hong Kong, which is an English newspaper, wrote about it, and then the news organisations in Australia read the South China Morning Post, and they called me up from Australia. Ended up in the Channel 7 News in Queensland, and then the Channel 7 went up and interviewed my parents, and they were on the news, and they were just really, really happy. So presence, yeah, most people don't know who I am, and that's okay.
You said you go back once or
twice a year.
Once or twice each year.
The only place I go to is Gympie.
Really? Just Gympie?
Yeah.
Okay. Why just Gympie?
Because I live here, so I don't see my parents except for FaceTime conversations. And so if I go back to Australia and I have limited time, I'm only going to one place.
Okay.
I'm going back home.
Bowles is asking, someone in the Periscope is asking, do you miss anything about Australia?
I grew up in the countryside, and I literally grew up in the bush. So the only thing I miss is the feel of the air, the smell of the forest, the crunching of the leaves when you're walking. I walk barefoot everywhere, even in the forest. Even in Hong Kong I walk barefoot.
That's good for grounding.
Yeah, somebody said that. I'm very grounded. So that's, and because there's a different feel. There's the sunlight and the dryness of the air. Because in Hong Kong we're not dry. We're pretty, except in wintertime for a couple of months we're really dry. But otherwise we're pretty humid. And then the gum trees and the sounds of the birds. That's what I miss when I'm here. And you go back and you walk around the bush again and you get that feeling back again.
Okay.
But nothing else really.
What about the feeling of like potentially dying at any moment because of the crocodiles, the black widow spiders, the snakes, the sharks?
It's really amazing that
trees.
Very, very few people actually die from. We don't have black widows, do we? No, we have funnel webs.
They're even worse. Probably.
Yeah, there's multiple varieties of funnel web spiders, and they actually tunnel into the ground. They have funnels in the ground. But there's one variety that lives in the trees. If they sting you, you're dead in less than a minute. So don't bother calling for an ambulance. But very, very, very few people die from a spider bite. Right? We have the most dangerous spiders in the world, and the snakes. Most snakes are not hostile. They would rather run away than attack you, unless they're trapped. And then sharks. There's this Stephen Fry program in England, and they were talking about the natural world. And more people die from getting butted by a goat each year than people who are bitten by a shark. So the only thing I've heard about sharks is that you don't want to be wearing a black diving suit. Yeah. Because they think you're a seal. Yeah. They think you're food. Okay. Otherwise, it's not that bad.
There's a Reddit thread. You know Reddit's the website.
Yeah.
And it's called Watch People Die.
Oh, that's nice.
And you can go there and you can there's a discussion always about how dangerous Australia is, and it just looks like anything can kill you. Oh no, it's not Watch People Die. It's Nature is Brutal, and it shows you what nature is doing to each other in Australia. And everyone's like, I'm not going to Australia ever, because it seems like you're just going to get murdered by...
But that sounds like America. With the machine guns.
Wow, okay.
We'll leave that. But seriously, in Hong Kong, we're really scared of going to America now.
Yeah.
Because anytime, any place, somebody's going to pull out a machine gun. I mean, it's really terrifying.
There are legitimate fears I was reading from rich mainlanders who want to send their children to America. Yeah. And they're concerned about the protests. And then there was an abduction of a Chinese woman who was brutally murdered and raped, and that made a big deal, big splash in China.
The rape before the murder? Or no,
whoa. It's dark. But these concerns have exacerbated the problem, and the Chinese are like, well, should we go to America? Should we send our daughters there or sons there? At the same time as...
It's like a business person I was talking to in China, and he said, okay, the Communist Party has a control of a lot of things, but in China you are relatively safe.
Well, it is one of the safest places.
It's one of the safest places on the planet. So you can go out at night time without fear of getting stabbed or shot at or anything like that.
I read somewhere 6 people out of 1 million die.
Yeah,
that's the potential. Yeah, that's the statistic.
So yeah. So
I wanted to pick your brain specifically about something about Gympie, because I recently travelled and I went to Blackpool.
Blackpool?
Yeah, Blackpool. That's where my family is. No, Blackpool in the UK.
Oh, okay,
I didn't know there was a Blackpool in Sydney.
There is, yeah.
But in Blackpool, we have the world's biggest disco ball. And as I was doing my research about Gympie at one point had the world's biggest pineapple. And then they dismantled it, and there's another one, but it's of the same height.
It was there for a long time.
Yeah, it's if I remember,
grew up with that pineapple.
It's 52 feet high.
I never went into it.
Right.
Because it had a circular staircase in the middle, and you went up to the top and you were able to look out. But it was right next to the highway. It was next to a petrol station. We say petrol station. So, for how many years was I in Gympie? I left in 1980. So I was there 15 years, but I never went into the pineapple. We went past it all the time, but never went in. It was for tourists.
But this leads me on to this thing called Australia's Big Things.
Yeah,
there's a whole Wikipedia list of all the big things that exist in Australia. So it's like a thing you can do and take pictures aside. So, for example, there's like a big red elephant. These are just a few.
I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Big peanut, the big paperclip.
Peanut is in Kingaroy,
King Neptune. I don't
which is
know.
where my sister lives now. You see.
King Neptune, and there's something called the Big Stubby, which I thought was hilarious because stubby means something else, but
We in Australia, stubby means a short bottle
Yeah.
of beer. Yeah.
but in England, but in the UK, stubby means something else,
Okay.
something phallic.
All right. We got it.
I have the biggest rocking horse. Bol says on the periscope. In your city. But how did that come about? Do you know? Like in
What, the
Australia,
pineapple?
No, to have
Big
the
things?
pineapple and the big things,
You've got to have something to draw the tourism crowd,
right?
and
Seems very easy just to say, let's just make a big Ned Kelly, which they do have, like a Ned Kelly, and everyone goes to the Ned Kelly.
well, you've got to try and attract the kids. You know, when families go on vacation, you've got to attract the kids. So it's a big pineapple, a big peanut, and it's always these big things. We have a big car. We also have a pub, and the design was taken out of a newspaper cartoon, and it's not square. It's all over the place. It's really amazing. But they're renovating it at the moment. There was some argument with the original author, the son of the author of the newspaper clipping, and he wanted more money for the right to use the design in their pub, and so they had to make alterations to get around the problem. But that's really amazing building, really amazing. They still have a big pineapple. It's just not in Gympie anymore.
Yeah, it's somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's on the Sunshine Coast. So everybody's heard of the Gold Coast, but in Australia, in Queensland, we also have the Sunshine Coast, which has numerous super beautiful beaches.
Is that in the north or in the south?
Just leaving Brisbane and going north, that whole stretch is Sunshine Coast.
Okay.
So the Gold Coast is below Brisbane, but above Brisbane is the Sunshine Coast.
I've met some other performers, like jazz artists and creative types in Hong Kong, and if the topic ventures towards China, they will speak about it off air. And
Not
so
on
it
it,
struck
yeah.
me that last time you were pretty much upfront, and you said like you're very selective. But do you ever feel like if you say something, you are going to be at a?
There are certain political topics with government like Beijing. The Hong Kong government, not such a problem, but the Beijing government, you don't want to criticize them. At the same time, it's really hard to just totally criticize them anyway, because they're in charge of, 13 billion people? 1.3 billion? I don't know, is it 1.3
billion, yeah.
And you've got to keep law and order and keep everything running, and then you have all these different officials with their own agendas, and so it's an extremely complicated job. I won't praise them, but I won't criticize them either, because for example, I read international newspapers, and you see the Americans complaining about if they want to get into the Chinese market, they have to give up their trade secrets, or they have to join 49% partnership companies. And then they're criticizing the Beijing government, and they're criticizing the American government for allowing it to happen. But in the end, it's the American companies who agree to the demands. And so from the Chinese perspective, they're doing it right, because they want to get the most they can out of these partnerships. From the American perspective, they're doing it wrong, but then they're the Americans who are agreeing to the demands. I mean, you don't need the Chinese market, but if you want the money from the Chinese market, then you give up these things.
So they're using China as the scapegoat
Well,
for their inadequacies or poor performance or whatever metric that.
no, there is a big problem. If you have a corporation that goes into China to try and make money, you've got almost zero chance of walking out of China with any money. The system's not set up to let profits leave China. So it'd be like a carrot on a stick. They'll say, yeah, it's a big market, you're going to make lots of money, but when you get in there and the partnerships are all signed up and everything else, you're not going to get a lot of money out of China. Some things are changing. So the Chinese, the People's Congress, what do they call it? The
People's Congress?
Congress. So they've just agreed to allow financial institutions to actually inside China own 100% of hedge funds, to own 51% of different investment corporations. And I don't know, I would be really careful if I was a financial institution, because in Hong Kong they have a lot of bad debt. I'm sorry, in China. And I think they're trying to get the international finance institutions into the Chinese market to provide more I hate the word liquidity. I think it's evil. But,
I don't even understand. I don't understand anything about finances.
Yeah,
So there's no follow-up questions, by the way.
I think they're trying to get more money into the Chinese market and more people to lend money, because if the whole economy is slowing down, they need businesses to be able to borrow money to expand their businesses and keep employing people and keep everybody happy. And if the local banks and the state-owned banks are not lending money, they've got to find somebody else to lend the money. And so they're making it more attractive for the international institutions to go into China to do business.
Right.
So at the moment it's only the financial institutions who can go in and own 100% of their business. But I would be really careful, because if you're in a country that's not your own and you lend money to somebody with a signed contract, but you don't have control over the courts or the judges or anything else, there's no guarantee you'll get your money back.
Right.
So the whole thing is that the Americans, they want to make money out of the Chinese market, and then they're the ones who are agreeing to the terms and conditions. So why should they complain after they've agreed to the terms and conditions? Just don't sign the contracts, don't go into China. Tesla actually has...
Yeah, they're building a plant.
They're building a plant, and it's 100% owned by Tesla.
That's good.
I don't know how they did that, but in China, because they are trying to solve the pollution problem, but it's going to take 20 years. Because it's too complicated. Too many people are living off coal, and keeping their houses warm with coal, and power generation. A lot of it is coal generated, so it's really, really complicated. But electric cars are a big part of China's future, because it'll cut down on the. Except you still need to generate electricity to charge the cars, right?
Yeah.
And they're burning coal to make the electricity. So, but then you can put, if you really want to do it well, you require them to put on really nice catalytic converters and keep all of the air coming out of the electric generators, keeping it really clean. Because in China 10 years ago, they were talking about how these companies were turning off the catalytic converters at night time when people couldn't see the smoke coming out of the chimneys.
Oh, it's terrible. But this idea of white appropriation or cultural appropriation of say Japanese movies like Ghost in the Shell, and they put Scarlett Johansson in the title role instead of a Japanese actor, or Matt Damon goes to China and it's a joint production. Did you follow any of this outcry or understand any of this that's going on, and thought?
I've seen a couple of them. There was one complaint about the movie made in Hawaii.
I don't know about that movie.
Something about the Navy and aeroplanes and something, and the main actress in the original story is a native Hawaiian, and then they found a white actress to do the role instead, and so that was a big problem.
Was that Hawaii 5-0 remake or something?
No.
No? Because there was two Asians that cancelled their contracts.
Really?
With that, yeah, because they weren't giving them enough screen time or something. Maybe that's something else, but that's another issue that was brought up during this whole idea of you're taking away Asian
the Japanese guy in Hawaii 5-0 quit because he'd been there for 6 or 7 years and he had enough. As in, he wanted to do that. That guy's super smart, the Japanese guy who used to be in Heroes.
I don't know.
Oh no, he's really smart. He's a clever guy. He's a real clever cookie. And he's doing so many things other than just being an actor. He's really amazing.
Right.
But the thing about some of the Hollywood companies are trying to make movies that apply to the maximum number of people, and so they need the A-list American actors. Even if the story takes place in China and there shouldn't be any Caucasians around, they've got to put one or two in there to keep the American audience interested. And then they like to get one super actor from Korea, one from Japan, a couple from China. They need a couple from China because if they want to film in China, they've got to have some Chinese people in them.
It's a legal thing, isn't it?
It's a legal thing, but it's also they want to attract the biggest audience possible. So there's not really much you can do about it. It's a few years ago somebody else was talking about it, and even today with the markets being so big now, but the market for actors is actually getting smaller. Right. And these big international productions that are getting made in China, they're still getting the same A-list actors from Hollywood to take the leading roles. And so you've got this group of 50 actors who are doing all these movies, and there are very, very few new actors getting roles in these movies. If you're local and you're a second-tier actor, it's going to be almost impossible to get promoted to first tier. You're either there or you're not.
Okay. Do you think? But do you think the criticism against, say, Ghost in the Shell was valid?
I saw the movie and I can't remember it. I'm getting old.
The Scarlett Johansson version of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
What was it?
She was playing a cyborg but it's been traditionally heralded as this is a Japanese piece of culture, and it's an intrinsic story to Japanese. It's innate to Japanese culture, and then
But did they move the location of the story? Is it still in Japan?
It's in the actual original anime, it's a city that's modelled around Hong Kong, and that's why they filmed it in Hong Kong. So the city and location didn't really change because they wanted to sort of stay truthful.
But Hong Kong is international. You can have anybody you want.
Yeah, but no, it's more like as a backdrop. You know the signs and the neon of old Hong Kong? They wanted to keep that, so they went back here to film on location, but then they just changed the major two characters. Scarlett Johansson's character and then one guy from Game of Thrones.
I'm starting to remember the movie now. At the end, one of her friends was also a cyborg, and they were almost dying. They were getting close to dying completely, and there was explosions, and this big super robot guy, and then the leader of the company that was controlling them was inside the robot or controlling it and trying to shoot him down.
Okay,
that's the one, right? Because I remember the final location was actually in the middle of Causeway Bay. It looked like one of our most famous land.
There is a scene where they cross over, you know, the famous yellow lines.
Yeah.
Where the Apple's always got the permanent poster.
Really?
Opposite Sogo.
Yeah, in Sogo, because we have a circular pedestrian bridge.
That place as well, yeah.
There's the circular pedestrian bridge above the tramway, and that's where the explosion was.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but she doesn't have to be Japanese. Not in that story.
But there's the argument that
this is future and Hong Kong is international. And
yeah, but the argument was, well, people in the West were saying the argument is, well, we know who Scarlett Johansson is, so the film's going to make more money.
Yeah.
If we put in a Japanese actress,
nobody's going to know who it is.
Yeah, but there's a chicken and egg scenario, because if you don't promote Japanese actors and actresses or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, but companies don't want to invest in promoting somebody. They want to invest in somebody who's already been promoted. The current situation for actors, and especially for singers, it's really desperate right now.
Right.
Because, for example, in Hong Kong, we used to have ATV, one of our TV stations, and then we had TVB, another TV station, then we had a government TV station, but they had to share airtime on the other two stations. So you had 3 stations, and then radio stations you had maybe 4 or 5, all right? So 20 years ago, if you had an actor who wanted to become famous in Hong Kong, he just went to TVB. And everybody was watching TVB. And if he did a good job, and if TVB liked him and put him in more roles, he was going to become famous. Okay, and then if you're a singer at the time, you performed at TVB, you didn't perform at ATV because they didn't like each other, but you got a lot of airtime from TVB, and then you had arrangements with the radio stations, and there are only 4 or 5 of them, and so everywhere you went, you were hearing this song on the radio, and so you were able to become popular or famous. Today, it's a totally different story. There's no 4 or 5 TV stations, there's no 4 or 5 radio stations. There are literally a million online video channels or
YouTube channels, stuff like that.
Just YouTube, but even in China, we have Youku, and we have all of these different places where you can watch video and film. And so if you're a new actor and you want to become famous, there's no one place that you can go to promote yourself. If you're a singer, nobody's listening to the radio anymore, except for the van drivers and the taxi drivers. Nobody else is listening to radio. So if you're a singer and you've got a new song and you're not really famous yet, how are you going to get it out there? It's almost impossible. You want to choose Facebook and pay Facebook some money and hope that the random selection of audience will actually like your song, and they're only going to hear it once, not 5 times every day, for 2 weeks. So today, to go from ground level to become a famous person, if you're an actor or especially if you're a singer, it's practically impossible. It's really, really, really hard. If you're promoting an artist, where do you promote them? which platform do you choose to put all your money? And do you choose one platform, or do you choose 10? How much money do you have to promote this artist? So today, it's really, really hard to create a new star.
So in the case of Ghost in the Shell, do you think the Japanese should have just created their own movie and tried to promote that?
Yeah, but people outside of Japan,
You'll only get the hardcore geeks watching Japanese movies because they'll only convert it. You get what they did with The Departed. You'll get Michael Scorsese doing his own version maybe, and then there's no Asian representation.
I'm watching a lot of Korean television at the moment. The writers are amazing. Apparently in Korea, the thing that comes before the actors is the scriptwriter. He's actually more important than the actors, and the actors are actually trying to get work with certain scriptwriters because they're just so talented and they're coming up with these stories that nobody else can imagine. I just finished watching a series about a cartoon author, and his cartoon turned into a gateway to an alternative universe. And they were able to traverse across the two universes through the cartoon. It was really, really well made and just totally new. I mean, nobody else has thought of anything even close to the concept.
Is this on Netflix or a terrestrial?
It's online, actually. There's there's at least one. The name of the series?
Yeah.
I think it's called W, Two Worlds.
W, Two Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's Korean, and then they've got the English subtitles. The thing is, it's an interesting story. It's a different culture. So while you're watching the series, you will pick up things that matter to Koreans, right? And the same thing with Japan. If you were watching a Japanese TV series, you would be able to get insights into the culture because they focus on the things that matter to them. And I don't actually mind reading subtitles while I'm listening to these other languages. I actually like the Asian languages, Korean and Japanese. I actually like them. One thing I have discovered is you actually have to focus. You have to pay attention to the series because if you don't focus, you can't see the subtitles and you don't know what's going on.
When we talk, we haven't talked really about it, but when you talk about consumptive habits, I find that I'm doing something on YouTube and I'm watching YouTube at the same time, and then it throws me out when I switch to a documentary and it's based in Japan, and I'm like, I can't wash the dishes while I'm listening to this.
No, you can't.
Just go like that, just flick across. I've actually got to pay attention to the subtitles, so I just watch it later. Okay, well, thank you for your time once again, Gregory. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And this will be on YouTube. Did you notice people walking past?
Because we're in a cafe.
Did you notice people were walking past and this Gregory Rivers? Obviously, they're saying it in Chinese, the Chinese name. Did you catch it?
No, I was watching the camera.
Okay. Sometimes, as we've been talking, there are people just carrying luggage, and they're eyeballing you and me.
Luggage is new word. All right, yeah.
No, I pick it up from the Chinese here. They pluralize everything, don't they?
Or did I say Asian man in an Asian market? He's fuck. This is my most popular video on YouTube. It's about this man. Fuck, got a twitch. Would you believe that this is my? Would you believe that this is my?